In one of my most recent videos titled Fuck Society, which is, in my opinion, up to date, my best video I've ever made. So, if you haven't watched it, really go watch it. So, I talked about the importance of identifying primarily with the God, essentially. So, the inner peace, the awareness, the pure consciousness, pure energy, to identify with that primarily, and identify with the individual soul secondarily, and then thirdly, to identify with being a human being. So, one very, very useful trick, and it really, this one, I did it before and it was a blast. And actually, the first time I started doing it, it was a spontaneous occurrence when I started microdosing, is to speak to yourself in third person. It's really bizarre. Like I said, I just spontaneously started doing it. Well, I started doing it when I microdosed, but I also did it when I was like doing the big trips. But then when I started microdosing, it started to become my dominant dialogue, I guess. Yeah, it's a dialogue of some sorts, right? True self speaking to false self in a way, in a way. So it started to become my sort of natural, spontaneous dialogue, and it's really bizarre if you start to speak to yourself in third person, like you're taking a walk and you're practicing mindfulness. You're aware of what's happening. Oh, there is a tree which is really, really magnificent. Actually, this tree right here, you see. It's really quite magnificent. It's got presence, I'll tell you. The fact that here I am focused on the video and it just captured my attention, it says a lot about the presence of this tree. So you're practicing mindfulness and oh, well, nice tree. And then, you're kind of aware of what you are doing and you say, well, Saeed is taking a walk or Saeed is making a video. And so you begin, so instead of saying I am walking, you say Saeed is walking. And instead of, saying like I'm hungry, you say Saeed is hungry. Because the more you use I, the more you identify yourself with the human character, the dream character that you currently experience life through. So if you're going around saying, oh, I'm hungry, right? You're identifying with that urge in you to eat. I am thirsty. I am horny. I am cold. And so you're playing the game from first person. You're always playing the game from first person, as opposed to Saeed's hungry. How interesting. You're up. See, automatically when you change the dialogue, or you change the dictionary, the words you use automatically. Now do this practice right now. Do it right now. Say, instead of saying I am, I don't know what you are right now. You may be thirsty or hungry. So you just use whatever you're feeling right now. So say for example, I am hungry. Or let's say for example, I am cold. Okay, now I am cold. I'm identifying and notice where you're feeling, where your attention is, where your awareness is. And you will see that it's like right here, very local, very like first person. Like you're playing the game first person. Now say this. Say your name. So Saeed is cold. Notice what happens here in your mind when you say this. You zoom out, like just by changing the words, you zoom out. Like here I am saying Saeed is cold. And I suddenly, in my mind's eye, just zoomed out, looked at Saeed from an observant perspective, from the perspective of the observer. So now suddenly I am playing the game from third person. It's called the third eye, third person, right? So, not a coincidence. And you know that if you're playing the game from third person, you have much more clarity. To give you an example, let's say that you're standing on a balcony with a cup of coffee and a bagel, right? If you're into bagels. And you're having a nice day and it's beautiful and you're just looking around. Wow, you know, clear mind, just hanging out. You're observing your environment, okay? And you see two cars. One car is coming this way, okay? The other car is coming this way. And both of these cars, the drivers of these cars, are not aware of each other. One is driving this way, one is driving that way. Now, they're both playing the game first person. They're driving their car, right? But you, standing on the balcony, you can see that there's a car coming this way and there's a car coming this way. And if one of them at least does not hit the brake, there is going to be an accident here. And so you're standing there, you have clarity of the map. You could see the map very clearly. And you could say, whoa, you know, oh, they're about to get in an accident. Now they have no idea. They have no clue that they're about to get in an accident. They're just playing the game first person. Whereas you're playing the game third person at that particular example, this particular situation. All right. You see, and you could see that there's an accident about to happen. They can't. And if you can somehow alert one of the drivers and say, hey, hit the brake, there's another car, you just prevented an accident. If somehow you could do that, I don't know, you would have some other superpowers or some telepathy or something, you know, where you could just go in and you know, like the ETs do to us with the synchronicities and stuff, okay? But you see now that you see very clearly how playing the game from a third person perspective will give you much more clarity and insights into the moves you currently make in the game as this character, and the moves that you ought to make that will be in your best interest as to not get in accidents, physical or metaphysical accidents, if you know what I mean. Okay? And so, speaking in third person is a very powerful way of doing that, and it's something I have not been able to stabilize. It's something I have not been able to integrate. I ran the experiment several times in the past, and probably the longest that I could, you know, hold it is to just speak in third person is maybe like a week or two, you know, and then I would fall back into playing the game from first person. But so as long as I actually did this and I changed the dictionary and I started to speak in third person, life becomes suddenly much more comedic, much more absurd, much more funny, comical, hilarious, because you're watching, right? Like you're watching, so everything starts to become kind of funny. Like it has that humor quality about it. And of course, if you are in a humorous and funny state of consciousness, you're in joy, basically. And joy is your true nature. So in many ways, God is a comedian, an entertainer, really. God is an entertainer. All of creation is lila, divine dance, divine play, right? So you actually get in those states where you do perceive everything around you as lila, because you're watching. Like, you're not identified with the character, you're not identified with its whims, its desires, its emotions. You're watching it, so everything becomes funny. So suddenly, you know, here you are, you know, I'm hungry, I want a chocolate chunky bar, right? Versus Saeed's hungry, Saeed wants a chocolate bar. Ooh, Saeed wants a chocolate bar. Ooh, Saeed can't go on without his chocolate bar. Ooh, must go get the chocolate bar, or else, you know, oh man, like, can't go on without the chunky bar, right? And you see that, you begin to have this sort of funny way of looking at things. Instead of saying, man, I need my chunky bar, I need a chocolate bar right now. You see, you're identified with it, you get serious about it, and you get needy. as opposed to watching it. Now, as the watcher, you may indeed still go, I mean, you kind of make fun of it a little bit, but you say, well, Saeed still wants a chunky bar. And here we are, and you go to the supermarket and you're still watching and you're eating the chunky bar and you're eating it and you're just so amused by it. Like, what am I doing here? What is this? Who's controlling this thing? Like, what? Oh, and then if the parasites, what? Oh, good parasites. I mean, you guys have got some good moves, making me do all this. So you're watching it with amusement. It isn't that suddenly you're going to, transcend all your petty desires and the petty things that sort of, act as obstructions to your highest potential, right? If you're eating cookies and chunky bars every day, that is obstructing your highest potential. It's not wrong, it's not right, it is what it is, right? So it's not suddenly that you transcend these things or stop it. Simply, you just recognize it, you watch it, you're amused by it. And in that sort of amusement, it seems to me that when you're in an amused state, that state of joy, that state of like, it's all right, like, who cares? Yeah, I'll eat a chunky bar right now, and you're amused by it, and you eat it, and you kind of, you kind of speak to your parasites because you're watching, right? So like, parasites, oh, you guys are really good, man. Like, you're making me do this now. I'm like a robot coming to 7-Eleven, and here I am. Here you go, chunky bar. You know what I mean? You're watching it, and you're amused by it, and you act upon these things. But in my experience, when you are third-person watcher, you're able to transcend these things much quicker due to your amusement, and again, due to you're in a state of joy. And you try to speak to yourself in third person and tell me how it is. Tell me how much more amusing life becomes once you do that, okay? So, that's on one level, right? That's on one level. So when you are constantly now watching yourself, the self that you have grown to identify with as your primary self, that's your human self, right? I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, this and that. That's all human urges, biological urges, desires, etc., programs, right? And you watch your mind, you watch your whims, etc., etc. Then you begin more and more to identify with what the Hindus call the Atman, the watcher, the observer, which is really just amused. Like, what you're literally, who you really are is watching the movie of your character. That's your watcher, and it's this watcher is very peaceful, very funny, non-judgmental, and is looking for amusement, is looking for entertainment, is looking for a good plot, a good whatever, a good movie, and is very peaceful, very energetic, very loving, very aware. That is you. So when you begin to watch the false self that you've been identified with, and I'm not a big fan of using the terminology false self, but roll with it, okay, just for the sake of convenience, right? Because it isn't really at a deep level. It is a character that you experience, and sure, while you're experiencing it, you're it. If we want to talk non-duality, by identifying true self and false self, we're automatically dissecting reality. But let's face it, the Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao. We are speaking. The minute we spoke, we profaned it. We're not it. So while we're in dualism and dualistic language, we use dualism for convenience, okay? So the false self is false because it's finite, because you're infinity. The true self is infinity. So by watching this finite character that you're in, this mind-body complex, okay, then you begin to lose naturally and spontaneously. You begin to lose identification, primary identification with the character. It just happens naturally. This is why I say, if you do this, you may find yourself suddenly not going to the supermarket and getting cookies or chunky bar or whatever. It will happen just spontaneously if you're always just watching, because you start to lose the primary identification. You begin primarily identified with the watcher. Therefore, yeah, you're not so identified, and you realize, oh man, like, I'm just acting on programs here. Like in my case, chunky bar, right? Chunky. Why? Because I don't know, I guess I was 6 years old and I went to the supermarket once and I ate it and it tasted really good. And I might have had it after my dad beat me up, or after something good happened in my life, or I won a soccer game. And now it got associated with happiness, or it got associated with emotional comfort. Therefore, Chunky Bar, Kit Kat, Chunky, became my favorite chocolate bar. It's just a program. It's not who I am. It's just a program, and frankly, it is a program that is acting against my best interest. Okay, the real me, which wants to come here and serve. You see, the real me wants to be here to serve, and so to serve, one must have the most optimal temple, the most optimal car, while driving in this dimension. You see, so it's actually acting against the best interest of the true self, which is compassionate servant, here to serve itself in its other forms in the time-space illusion. So this is something I'm going to watch myself. Okay, see that the inception that's happening here, but this is something that I'm going to yet again experiment with, because every time I experimented with it, it really was good. It really got me in a in an interesting state of consciousness that is very pleasant, very very pleasant, and very very non-judgmental, very amused. That's really the word here. We're just very amused by the whole thing, by the whole illusion, maya, by the lila, the divine play. And it's an experiment I highly encourage you to give a shot. Okay, I mean, just go around and just every time replace the word I with your name, the name that you're given in this mind-body complex, in this dream character that you're currently dreaming through, seeing through the illusion. And a lot of mosquitoes here. And what else? Yeah, try it out. Give it a shot, okay? And let me know how it goes. So, thank you to the Patreons for your support. Here's a kiss for everyone. If you want to join the Patreon, it's a very serene place. If you want to join the Patreon fam and you want to show your support in any way, $2 a month is the lowest tier. If we have enough people, it's going for the community. It's not for Saeed really at this point. And I gotta start doing that more often, by the way, in my videos. Speak in refer to this illusion here, this illusionary finite character as Saeed, right? So I'm gonna do that more often as part of the experiment. It's not for Saeed anymore, it's for the community. So if you'd like to support the community, you could join us at Patreon. And thank you so much to all the existing Patreons. Saeed Mobayed at Instagram. And until next time, may the force, which is really abundant in this place, be with you.